Hello, welcome to the G.I. Joe New News Classified Reviews. My name is David T. Allen, or if you would like, Super Dave 817. If you would like to see more of this content, please like, share, and subscribe, and hit the notification button for future videos. Thank you and enjoy.
Hello, welcome to another episode of the G.I. Joe New News Classified Review. I'm David Allen, or if you like, Super Dave. Hello, everybody in the chat this morning. Good morning, Lenny Honda, very first person in the chat. Good morning. How are you doing, buddy? Thanks for joining us. So we are going to be covering vintage or retro package, however you'd like to say it, rock and roll OG13, another member of the OG13 in their vintage design. So we're going to be going over that a little bit. So I wanted to cover a little bit of his previous figure. This is the first version we got from Classified. And it's a pretty good figure overall. I liked it. It's closer to the second variation figure of rock and roll from the original OG vintage line. People were not too happy about that beige in there. They wanted that retro aesthetic. They wanted that OG13 style for the figure to go with all their other OG13 figures. And I think the retro line has been doing that one figure at a time. They've kind of did that with Snake Eyes. They kind of did it with Scarlet. They've kind of did it with Stalker. And they've been doing these characters in the retro vintage package one at a time as we've gotten through this line. And in 2025, they did a pre-order for Zap that was very similar to his vintage aesthetic, almost identical to a vintage green shirt, in fact. And then we also got the green shirt, which came in 2025. So I think getting all these guys in those aesthetics throughout the retro package line is the right way to go with this set of figures. We do have quite a few figures yet to get their design through the vintage package, retro package aesthetic yet. We did get Hawk with his MMS, which is very OG13 inspired. But we also got a 2-pack of Short, Fuse, and Steeler. Not quite their OG13 aesthetic. So maybe we'll eventually get both of those again in a retro style or vintage package down the road as re-releases instead of being an exclusive through Target, which that was. Not a lot of people were able to get it. All the exclusive packaged figures are harder to find at Target and Walmart and so on, and San Diego Comic-Con versions and things like that. So they're smaller print runs, and so maybe they'll redo those. They'll re-offer those 2 figures. So then we'll get a closer OG13 with that. We definitely need another Grunt. You could almost take the OG13 green shirt retro package figure and put the Grunt head on it, and there you could have your Grunt, because basically the OG13 Grunt was the green shirt. So the good thing about this line is you can modularize it. You can switch heads, you can switch accessories, you can put different things with different figures and stuff like that. So if you don't get something with one figure or an accessory or this or that, you can move them around and do what you want. And I think that's good for this line, that they gave it that ability, because it's tricky to try to get all this stuff, especially for new collectors that are just getting into the line in 2025. I've got a few people on my channel here that are just starting out, and I've given them some advice to start with the retro package line. I think that's the best way to start. And then they could branch out and get little things here and there of their favorite characters and so on and so forth. So let's get into this rock and roll. So The vintage package looks really, really nice. The retro design looks very similar to the Hector Garrido design. Obviously, it's touched up. You can see that computer touching up. I wouldn't say AI necessarily, but definitely some computer art programs had to touch that up a little bit because it looks a little bit different. I'll try to keep it where there's not a reflection on that, but it looks pretty good. I think overall one of the better looking packages, and it's definitely still a little bit modern in its aesthetic. Skywalker, good morning, thanks for joining the chat. Good morning, everybody. Lenny Honda, that image isn't as disturbing as Flint's redo. Yeah, definitely, I agree. Both of those Flints, I don't care for either of them. And when we get to that, we'll obviously discuss that package. But this one's not too bad. It says Greg Rock and Roll McConnell. So his real name is Greg, apparently. So then we're going to go over to the back. So we've already covered all these figures, the Viper, Dr. Mindbreaker, now Rock and Roll. So let's read what it says. Rock and Roll, McConnell, Greg S. Roll, Machine Gunner, Primary Specialty Infantry, Secondary Specialty, PT Instructor, Birthplace, Malibu, California. Because he was into surfing and doing all that stuff like that. And there was a lot of fun stories in the comics with him and Clutch going on the road and doing all kinds of things and getting themselves into trouble on the road. Rock and Roll was a surfer and a weightlifter in Malibu prior to enlistment. He also played bass guitar in local rock and roll bands. He possesses a strong sense of loyalty to his teammates and is a man of honor and integrity who can be counted on to hold the line. So that's really cool. For that character, I like that. And he did stand by Clutch in a lot of those storylines, even though Clutch was getting him into trouble. So let's get him out of his package and we'll see what we have here. Let's see how he compares to the first version of Rock and Roll. So this is our 21st vintage package that we're reviewing. We started all this series of figures with a 00 Snake Eyes. We've gone up to 139 regular figures, and now we're up to 21 vintage figures. And we've done 4 60th anniversary legacy figures so far. So we've really done really good with this series and gotten far with it, but we have a lot more to go, so stay tuned. So obviously we have the Legal and Gobbledygook and Indicia, so put that back in there. So we're done with this package. We're going to put it down here for now and get that out of our way. We have the stand, the vintage retro package stand with the Stars and Stripes. So we're going to get the figure out first. Go with that. All right. So let's see. Right out of the package, oh, here's a strap. Let's see. Get that off. There. Right out of the package, I can see some differences with this. So there's a little bit of deco in his hair. So I'm going to pull off this helmet off this one. And you can see there's a slight difference with his hair. His hair is a little bit more bleach blonde on this version, and on this version it's a little more dirty blonde. I don't know if you guys can see that with my lighting through the lens there, but there is a difference in the hair color in these two figures. So let's put that back on there. So right off the bat, I can tell there's some deco differences with the hair on that from the first version to the second version. So he was out in the sun and he was out surfing and stuff. So the second version has a little bit more blonde, whereas this is more when he was in the military earlier, and his hair is a little dirty blonde. And so there's a difference there. All right, so he definitely has the vintage aesthetic with that drab marine green, I guess you can call it. He also has the signature bullet harness that he had in his vintage one. The only difference with this one and this one is the color is slightly different. This is more of a khaki with brown, and this is a gold with some marine green in there. So there is a difference there. He also has the same secondaries and belt around his waist. All those are the same, except they're deco different. Whereas on the first version, they're brown, and on this, they're all a darker green, more like a pine green or something like that. Let's see. 610 Yojo Daddy. Good morning, Super Dave. Good morning, fellas. Gunpowder Nitro. What's cracking, y'all? Yay. Good morning, Gunpowder Nitro. Good morning, 610 Yojo Daddy. And Lenny Honda. Morning, everybody. So thanks for joining us in the chat today. We're covering this vintage retro packaged rock and roll OG13 deco. So the face is another thing that I really like. You can see there are slight differences with the face print on him. Not huge differences, but just slightly on that face print. He's got some dark brown boots. The boots on the first version matched all of his secondaries, whereas this one, they're more darker, more like gun leather type boots. Everybody's saying hi to everybody in the chat. So let's see. His articulation points, of course, he's got the butterflied shoulders. He's got the double pinned elbows, double pinned knees. He's got the foot rocker. He's got the secondary ankle articulation. He has the thigh and calf articulations. He does have something that I don't think he had on the other one. He's got the wrist, the adjustable wrist articulation and the twist. So he's got one more articulation point. I don't recall him having that on the other one. And I switched and I gave him the peace hand on the other one, whereas he's got the two gripping hands on this one. He also has the crotch and leg articulation there. He's got the ab crunch. You can see that right there, ab crunch. And he's got the head rocker articulation. So he's got most of the articulation points. The only one he doesn't have is the secondary wrist twist there, half articulation. But he's got most of the other ones. But he really stands out. He's also got the shirt, that articulation with the shirt up there where it's rolled up. Not a lot of figures have that yet. There's been a few. I think maybe Outbacks had it. Obviously, the first rock and rolls had it. A couple of guys, not a lot. So I kind of like that rolled up sleeve type style that they give some of the figures to give them something different. Love that rock and roll. Got him driving my Ram that came with Breaker. Very good. That's a good thing. You can take a lot of these figures and do what you want with them and move them around and give them different accessories and put them in different things. I would put him with Clutch with the Vamp because him and Clutch are best buds in the comics, and they always were getting into trouble and hanging out. So that's probably where he's going to go. If I don't have him on a regular stand, I might put him with Clutch. But all right, let's get into some of his accessories. Overall, he looks really good. It's a very good standout. He looks like he's supposed to look like as a vintage figure. So we're going to get this second package underneath first, get that out of the way. It is the gunmetal belt, the bullet belt first. So we'll put that over there. So it matches his belt that is on his harness, his bullet belt on his harness. So that's good that they kept the consistency. Then we have the little bullet cartridge that goes to his heavy machine gun with a little bitty gold bullet there hanging out. So we'll attach that in a little while, get all those put together. And then we have his really big, heavy Mod Deuce machine gun, and he's got these little stand things that are brown, whereas they were green on the other one. They're brown on this one, and they used a flat black on this, whereas the other one has a sheen on the black on his heavy gun. Let's see. Hey, Brandon. Hello. Thanks for joining us. Gunpowder Nitro. A beltified M60 always adds cool points. Yep, you're right about that. So we'll put that over there. So the black is more of a flat black. He has a revolver 45 black. There, we'll put that in his holster in a minute. And then we have a walkie-talkie. It looks like a more of a vintage walkie-talkie there. Looks pretty good. And then we have his familiar green helmet. They decorated it a little bit darker green, and there's a little bit of black pouches and radio equipment. And this is the strap, the harness that goes around his chin. So that got a little bit of more vintage style deco to it. And then we have his secondary set of hands. They gave him a fist. There. And then, of course, we have to have the peace fingers and peace hands. I gave it to the other one. I probably won't give it to this one. I might just give him the fist. And that does it for his accessories for now. So let's put them all on the figure, see what we can get. And he does not come with a backpack. Similar to his previous figure, he did not come with a backpack. Terrence Childs, who do you have now? This is Rock and Roll Retro Vintage Package Rock and Roll. We're comparing him to his first version and checking him out. Bipods, the bone of many a classic collector. Yep, there you go. Lenny Honda, thank you very much. All right, so first off, we're going to put his revolver in his holster there. We have a little bitty dude out on the back. We can put his walkie-talkie on. So we're going to do that. Now, I don't recall, I could be mistaken, but his other version doesn't have a walkie-talkie. So I'm wondering if they already planned to do this figure and they added that walkie. One of the big things that I do want to mention is if you look at his arms, Terrence Childs, do I have Roadblock? Yeah, I have Roadblock. There's no tattoos on this one. They did not give him the tattoos on his arms. So on the first version, he's got tons of tattoos on all of his arms. On this version, there's no tattoos. So there's obviously a lot of deco changes on this figure from the previous one. But it makes sense that they would do that. I'm going to switch this hand and give him the fist hand there. So he can do some bare knuckle brawling. Oh, I can in that hand. Has to go into this hand. So I have to take out that gripping hand and put that one in there. And then put the gripping hand on this one. And I'll put the Ma Deuce in the other hand, his heavy machine gun in the other hand instead. All right, so I'm going to put his helmet back on him like that. Or maybe I'll leave the helmet off. What do you guys think? Should I leave the helmet off of this one to give him a little bit of a distinctiveness difference, or leave the helmet, keep the helmet on? So now I'm going to put all of his gun together. So he has this cartridge, which I believe plugs into the side here. Maybe. Well, I thought that plugged in there, but it doesn't look like it plugs in there. That's weird. I can't I thought that plugged in there, but it doesn't look like it plugs in there. Doesn't want to go in. That's odd. All right, so then we have the belt, the bullet belt, which can go through here, there like that. I'll figure that out in a minute. The tattoos are really cool, or so cool. Yeah, they are. I think they did a good job with those tattoos. I guess they had to cost the tattoos out for this version, or I don't know. Maybe it was just a way to get it cheaper or something. I'm not sure. I am having a hard time with this bullet thing. I just don't know where it's supposed to go. I thought it went there, but it does not look like it goes there. And I don't think it goes on the bottom. So I don't know why they have this bullet thing there. But there's this heavy machine gun. And so I'm going to put it in this hand. I hope that works. There. Move those up. There. And so you have your heavy gunner rock and roll vintage package figure. 610 Yojo Daddy, do you have the other rock and roll? I wasn't sure I needed the retro carded one since the classified one was so good already. They're very distinctly different. 610 Yojo Daddy. There's a lot of deco differences with him. He has all the same accessories and all the same accoutrements on his uniform and everything, but it's the deco that's different. So this is much more beige, has all those tattoos on his arms, and his hair is a little brighter yellow, and the greens and browns are much brighter colors. It's much more version 2 rock and roll deco, in my opinion, whereas this is much more army drab vintage OG 13 deco, and it does not have the tattoos. His hair is a little bit darker and more dirty. Like I said, it has all the same accoutrements and secondaries and stuff like that. It's just the decos are really drastically different. So it just depends on what variation you would like in what arena that you're trying to set up. If you're doing some photography or if you're doing a diorama or whatever, depends on which version you might need for that. If you're doing an OG13 diorama or photography, you would need this one definitely. If you wanted to do a more modern, something futuristic, upgraded, classified, then I would go with this one. Oops. So I'm going to put him on his stand. It seems like the classified stands, when you get the retro package, they hold up a little bit better than the stands that I've been buying from Amazon. They're a little harder to put them on. So we do have some extra bits and bobs that do not hold onto the figure, which I'm not happy about that. Let's see, 610 Yojo Daddy. I have both, but I'm a completionist, Brandon. If you just need one, I would think either is fine. There you go. But I don't know. I know those OG13 guys were obsessed with getting all these in their OG13 decos, and so they did that. That's why we've been getting Scarlet, Stalker, Snake Eyes, Zap, Rock and Roll. And Hawk is already vintage inspired with his figure with the MMS. The only ones I would say Short Fuse and Steeler could probably use a little bit of a vintage redeco, maybe. But we'll have to wait and see. And then there's rumors that we're getting Flash and Grand Slam next year. How many versions of Lieutenant Falcon are there in the vintage line? I only know of the original one. Well, there is a figure I just covered a couple of videos prior to this. It was a Night Force redeco with Quarrel 2-pack that was a Walmart exclusive 2-pack Terrence Child. So there are 2 Falcon figures. I think we should get another Falcon, a more vintage inspired, or maybe a Sunbow inspired Falcon. I think there's room there for another Falcon sometime in the future. I think we're going to get all those figures redecoed from the movie, from the 87 G.I. Joe Sunbow movie. I think Falcon, Jinx, Chuckles are probably going to all get redecos at some point. At least that's what most people want. I don't know if that will happen, but I think people want that. So there you go. Let's see. I think a retro bazooka would be sick. A retro bazooka. You mean the Alpine and bazooka? Why, you didn't like his first version? I thought that was very vintage inspired. They did the Tiger Force one, and then they did the regular one. What was wrong with that figure that you think we should get a retro version of Bazooka, Gunpowder Nitro? So I don't have this on the other one either. So I guess I must have taken it off because it's not on him on this. Oh, actually, I do have it on there. It kind of connects there. I'll have to fiddle with this and see how this connects. Maybe they have a different setup with it. I don't know. I have to look at it. I have to look at the first version and look at the second version and see how that can connect. So you want a card back bazooka, Gunpowder Nitro? That's the only reason why you want another bazooka, because you want a card back. I see. Okay. Well, in that case, I guess we could redo every figure and get a card back. But I don't know if that's the way to go with this line. I think they should only do card backs if there's a necessity, like people want another Jinx, people want another Falcon, they want another Chuckles. That's why I'm saying they should all have redecos and be vintage packaged figures or retro packaged figures. There's characters that I think we will get in that. Like, obviously we're getting Ripcord because they did Crazy Legs. There's rumor that we're going to be getting a Wild Bill retro packaged figure. So, things like that where people think there should be room for redeco, like a Sunbow inspired redeco. The same with Baroness, the same with Major Blood. There's definite room for redecos in the Sunbow aesthetics for those characters. Would they do that again? Would we get another Baroness? Would we get another Major Blood? Who knows? We've not got a Major Blood in the retro package. We did get Baroness already, though. She was only because people could not get that coil motorcycle, so they did her in her vintage figure deco and re-released her. But there is room probably for another Baroness as a retro package version of her in her Sunbow aesthetic, her earlier version. So we'll see how that goes. People have been wanting that. So the retro package, the vintage package is kind of a mixed bag of what we could get. I think it's a good way to get vintage versions that we've not gotten, like the OG13. I think that's the way to go for OG13 redecos. As far as like Zap, he's got a second version that came out in the 90s that is a much more upgraded Zap. So maybe we'll get him as a regular release down the road. Since we're getting a retro package. So they're really mixing and matching a lot of this stuff. Whereas Rokondo, he got a Tiger Force figure, but then they released him in a vintage package and they did not give him a classified version. And so I was a little surprised they didn't do that, but they did it with Bazooka. So the vintage package, retro package line is really a mixed bag of all kinds of things that Hasbro is just trying to get stuff out there. Like the eel and the snow serpent. People wanted more versions of those figures. One was an exclusive to Amazon. One was a deluxe with a lot of extra accessories, and it was expensive. So they did those two figures in the retro design package, retro packaging. So it's very weird how they do it, but it is a mixed bag. It's all over the place why we're getting figures in that line, and it's all where Hasbro thinks there's a need to re-release a figure. And if they do re-release a figure, it's got to have a lot of differences. To a certain extent, the first 8 figures, there were not a lot of differences in most of those figures. The only one that really had a lot of differences, I would say, out of the first 8 figures, the Walmart exclusive vintage package ones, was Gung Ho. He was the one that looked the most different from his original release. Lady J, Baroness, Destro, Storm Shadow, Zartan, all looked pretty similar. Snake Eyes, that was a very vintage inspired. So there was a lot of differences with the Snake Eyes and the Gung Ho's. But everybody else was very close to their original versions, very slight differences. Oh, and the Crimson Guard as well, very slight difference in that deco. Sunbow should be last thing they do. Super 7 already did that look. Hasbro should be fine. All cylinders ahead on classified look that fits more with the current comic media from Image Energon universe. Yeah, I know we haven't gotten one Skybound figure, new figure yet from them, Brandon. We've gotten the reverse. Skybound is taking the decos of classified and upgrading them into comic book format. We've gotten Road Pig, we've gotten Raptor, we've gotten Rock and Roll, all deco based on their classified variations, and probably a little Major Blood there. So they're doing it in reverse. They're taking the classified designs and they're putting them into Skybound. They're not taking the Skybound and making action figures. Not yet, anyway. We may down the road at some point, but not yet. Brendan, there's so much cool stuff they haven't done yet. Leave the Sunbow past in the past, I say. Well, that's one viewpoint, Brandon. Your viewpoint is your own viewpoint, but I know there are people that do want Sunbow inspired Major Blood and Baroness, and if you're going to do OG13, you have to do them closer to that Sunbow aesthetic. So in order to get them all in that retro vintage package to match, you have to do that. But there's not a lot of Sunbow. There's not a lot of Sunbow versions. Most of the versions are figure variations. Like Shipwreck pretty much looks like Shipwreck, Most of the figures look like their figures. Alpine looks like Alpine. Bazooka looks like Bazooka. Most of the figures look like what they're supposed to from Sunbow. Only a few differences here and there. Like I said, with the movie, Jinx, Chuckles, and Falcon all look totally different. And in the vintage, the first Sunbow animated movie, Baroness looks different. Major Blood looks different. And some of the OG13s look different. But that's about all. Those are the only areas I would say using Sunbow. Maybe everything else could be different. Like the Recondo, they're going to be doing Recondo and his regular version. Sean Jones, what's good, Joe Bros? Happy Friday. Hey, good morning, Sean Jones. Thanks for joining us. Hello, Dude Stuff 2025. Thanks for joining us today. Brandon, hey. So it's an interesting thing. What would you guys like to see in the retro vintage package aesthetic? Brandon has already shared some of his thoughts. All the rest of you guys that are in the chat right now, who would you like to see as a retro packaged figure, and what aesthetic should they use for those characters? Should they be Sunbow inspired? Should they be vintage figure inspired? Should they be redecos of things that we haven't gotten yet? Where do you think we should get? Or do you think we should get totally new, like the Crimson Guard female? Because there are some new figures in this line that we've never seen before, like Zap. Even though he's vintage inspired, that's the first Zap we've seen. So give me some of your thoughts, and I'll call them out in the chat for you guys. Scoop, you would like to get a vintage inspired Scoop figure in the retro package? Scoop is a cool figure. That's a Deke character, and he was I guess a Alley Viper first, and then he defected, or was he a Crimson Guard? I can't recall who Scoop was first. Was he a Joe first or a Cobra first? I can't remember. Deke. He was in Deke, though, I know that. Retro card is good. Aura figures inspired, not Sunbow. I don't see those as the same thing. Super 7 reaction was the Sunbow look, and no thanks. I understand. Definitely, I agree with you. The Super 7 was much more Sunbow inspired. But we did get the Sunbow inspired Snake Eyes with the polar bear. We got the divers. We got the Breaker, which was more like a teal costume. Breaker, Sunbow inspired. So that's why I'm seeing this pattern of these Sunbow inspired figures from the mass device and so on and so forth. And we're doing Arctic versions of characters that are also in Sunbow. So that's why I'm getting at that, Brandon. So, it's interesting. Sunbow look on a modern action figure mold. Dude Stuff 2025. So there you go. There's a different opinion. It's just going to be interesting because we only got the first 3 for this year, but I'm pretty sure we're going to get 4 more waves of retro figures. There's a rumor there's a Zorana, Deke inspired Zorana, with a much more greener, weird deco for Zorana. I don't know if they're going to go into Deke or not, but that would be an interesting thing if they did. Yeah, I didn't buy any of that. If the rumor is true, Fatal Fluffies, yeah, no thanks. Yeah, I know. That's one I'm a little surprised at. Fatal Fluffies. I think if you added it to like a line of like monster figures, okay, Fatal Fluffies could fit in with all these different mutants and monster vipers and mega vipers and mega monsters and all that stuff. The manimals, yeah, you could probably fit it in with a whole line of that monster stuff. But as a figure based by itself, as a classified figure, I don't think people would go for that. Maybe I'd still get it because I'm an all-in collector. But yeah, I see what you're talking about there, Brandon. Super 7 quits halfway through making as much as others for a whole line. Yeah, they did stop. Brian Flynn's thought process on that was because they felt that Hasbro was already doing a very good job in a 6-inch field of figures for G.I. Joe, that they didn't feel they could financially make it work, so they stopped. We got like 20 figures in that line. We got some really cool stuff. But yeah, they stopped for that reason. They didn't want to compete with Hasbro. They thought that they were doing a good job with it. Terrence Childs, does the retro card Commander come with a hood? No, he does not. They've not released a Cobra Commander with his hood in classified. We're up to going on 140 and then 21 retro vintage package and 4 60th anniversary, and we're really up to about 200 figures. I've got another 60 figures or so to cover in this series. There's no Cobra Commander with his hood, but there is rumor we are going to get that this year. And I'm hoping if they do that, it'll definitely be the darker deco with the gold stripes, the hood, and some different things. Maybe a cape, maybe a scepter. Go with that royal type version of him if we do get it. I want a lot of differences. I don't want them to just redeco the vintage versions like they did with the Mickey Mouse and the original. I want a drastically different deco and a lot of different accessories with them if they do it. Yojo Daddy, just a bit of information. Classified is going to be looking more into Sunbow and Deke, but I recently found out they are also about to lean into Resolute as well, with Destro being the first possibility. Yeah, they did say very heavily that they love that Resolute Destro, and they love that cartoon, and they love a lot of the decos of the figures in that cartoon. And so they called that Destro out specifically on the Adventures in Collecting podcast when they did that interview in December. So if you guys want to look at that interview, go to the Adventures in Collecting podcast channel, and you probably can find it on there. It's a very good interview. They also revealed a completely new character for G.I. Joe, a completely new Cobra character coming this year, and Shebang was also revealed as a name only in that. And they rumored that he might not be coming by himself. He might be coming in a 2-pack. So that's the rumor on Shebang. Who do you think Shebang will come with? I'm hoping it'll come with a Ninja Force Scarlet. I think that would be really fun to come with a Ninja Force Scarlet, because I really love that deco. I don't care for the vintage figure because it's got this weird proportions to it, but a retro styled Scarlet in that deco, beautiful. I look forward to it, because she had those shoulder pauldrons, those Zorana shoulder pauldrons, and she was like a very lime yellow lemon color and a very bright green and stuff like that, and she looked really fun in that. I think we would get something like that. I think they can do it. The parts are there for it. Thank you, 610 Yojo Daddy, for keeping me up to date on stuff. You really help me out a lot of times. Sometimes things slip through the cracks. I can't be on every podcast, but so far we're pretty simpatico with our knowledge of this classified line. I do try to keep my ears to the ground on a lot of that information, and watch a lot of interviews and watch a lot of other podcasts and things like that to try to stay up to date on all this stuff for you guys. But yeah, I think there's some room for some different things, because we are getting a little thin on 82 to 86. There's hardly anything left. We're getting a deep 6, and the only thing that's left in 82 to 86 is a handful of redecos with Grunt and Clutch and the Brazil, Mission Brazil, and drivers. There's an Airtight. If they do Airtight, there's really no single figures left. We'll only have some redecos and vehicle drivers for 82 to 86. We've got to get into these further into the later 80s, the 90s, the modern era. We've really got to start hitting those time frames more, because there's hardly anything left for 82 to 86. Terrence Childs, why wait? They just released a hooded Cobra Commander. It's not a big deal if they don't want it to be a big deal. Yeah, there's some sort of internal situation with Paramount didn't want that, and Bonaventura said there's no way we're doing a hooded Cobra Commander, so they didn't. For 20 years they put the kibosh on that figure. There was a San Diego Comic-Con one that came out in like 2007 or so, with the podium. So maybe there's rumor that we're going to get it, but I don't know. I want it to be drastically different than the other Cobra Commanders. That's just my 2 cents. If you guys want something different, that's perfectly fine. Found out that leaked list was Warshist, full of toys, trolling. Destra is my spirit animal, and the jerk Viper Island. He threw in some previously verified leaks, and he said the rest he made up. So the list that was on the Destro is my spirit animal, you're saying that that list is completely false, that was something that Viper Island sent him and trolled him, and none of that stuff is accurate? Yojo 610 Daddy, 610 Yojo Daddy, can you clarify that? Which ones were the fakes? Who knows? Gunpowder Nitrous. Supply and demand. If a hooded commander is released, it will sell out in 2 minutes. Heard a lot of people want this. Yeah, there are a lot of people that want it. I agree with you, Gunpowder Nitro. There's plenty of people that want that figure. I'm not saying that there's not a demand for it. I'm just saying that Hasbro, for whatever reason, hasn't been able to make it for 20 years because of Bonaventura, Paramount, and that environment. Now that they're out of the picture, I don't know if we will get it or not. So there you go. But yeah, I want it as well. I know a lot of people want it. It's just a matter of, will they give it to us? Will it be something they'll add to a paywall like a HasLab? Would they put it in a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive set? Will they put it into a place that Paramount can't really do much about it, because the demand is going to obviously be there. People are going to pay for it. So they're going to do it in a way that the fans will have to go and search it out and find it, and kids can't get it. So it won't be at Target, won't be at Walmart, it may not even be on Big Bad Toy Store, Amazon, or Entertainment Earth. It may have to be Hasbro Pulse specific thing, San Diego Comic-Con or HasLab type environment for that figure. 610 Yojo Daddy. I can say I was told it wasn't the dojo with Chabang, but your guess is as good as mine. Yeah, so yeah, I heard that too. No dojo with Chabang, so they'll probably do Jojo on his own down the road if we do get him. It's just not G.I. Joe without a Cobra Commander and his hood. Yeah, I understand, Terrence Child. I understand. It's a variation, a very strong variation of Cobra Commander, so you definitely want it, and I want it as well. It's just a matter of how we get it and what the deco is on it. But heard he is a 2-pack as well. Yeah. So I would really like the Scarlet. What do you think about that, 610 Yojo Daddy? Would you like the vintage Ninja Force Scarlet with him? That would be kind of cool to get a different Scarlet, because we've gotten we got regular Scarlet, her running variant. We got the Snake Eyes movie Scarlet. We got the retro vintage package Scarlet. So we only have 4 Scarlets. I think it is very feasible to get a different Scarlet because of those shoulder pauldrons that Zarana has, and they're also doing probably those shoulder pauldrons with Zanya as well. They're going to get some reuse out of that part, and so that Scarlet has those. So that's where I'm thinking that that's something they future-proofed, where they can get that into other figures, and Scarlet is one of those figures. You could even say the Hooded Commander is an iconic figure. Yeah, he's definitely an iconic figure. They did the San Diego Comic-Con version. They did the original version, which was a mail away, by the way. That was a mail away. It was not a regular released figure. So that goes to my point that we are going to get it in a weird way that is not a mainline way. We will not get it at the store. We will not get it at the retailers like Big Bad Entertainment, Amazon, and so on. It's got to be an exclusive either through Hasbro Pulse, San Diego Comic Con, or a HasLab. That is the only way you're getting that figure. I'd be willing to bet you on that if we do get it. And it'll be a deluxe probably with a lot of accessories, the cape, the staff with the earth on it, with the snake around it, the hood, with all the other existing accessories. It'll be a deluxe figure, and it'll be a higher price point, and they're gonna make it difficult for us to get it. Is there a new version of the Ram cycle going to be introduced sometime? I've not heard of any new Ram. I have heard a new Ferret is coming, a variation of the Ferret, maybe a Python Ferret to go along with the Tiger Force Ferret. And then we'll have 3 Ferrets and 1, 2, 3 Rams. That'll give us 3 Rams, 3 Ferrets. No, some of it is accurate. A guy named War Chest, full of toys, sent that list trolling Viper Island, and Destro is my spirit animal. Some of the list is accurate. Some of it is made up by War Chest. Ah, all right. Thank you for the clarification, 610 Yojo Dad. So War Chest is the person that shared it to Destro is my spirit animal and Viper Island. Some of it's fake, some of it's real. All right, so that clears up that. So who is War Chest? Does anybody know who that is? Is that a Hasbro insider? Is that somebody that works on the Hasbro brand, trying to get a lot of us speculating and getting a lot of fun interaction in these videos and talk? I would not put it past them, because they do similar things with Transformers. People do. They do similar things with Marvel Legends. They do similar things with Star Wars. So there may be somebody at Hasbro that has that handle, and they're the ones doing that. I don't know. But it keeps us talking. We wouldn't be talking about all this right now if we didn't have this stuff to discuss, because there's a bit of a lull in information right now until G.I. Joe Day in February, when we get some leaks for that and some render reveals and things like that. So that's what we're all waiting for, is February, the beginning of February, for all that information. And then we'll turn into a whole bunch of new conversations. And then New York Toy Fair will be another bunch of new conversations. And then if they come to MegaCon and SuperCon and WonderCon in the spring before Yojo June, there'll be some more conversations. And then Yojo June will be a whole bunch of other conversations. That's how this works. The information channel changes per information and reveals and all this stuff, and information being let loose. All right, so no, just same guy from what I understand, who has an interesting taste in books he reads. Oh, okay. All right. Brandon, that was interesting. Terrence Childs, I would love to see a new version of the G.I. Joe Whirlwind. Now that's an interesting vehicle. You don't hear the Whirlwind that often. I'll give you my 2 cents. I've talked about this a few times when we've done HasLab chats. There's got to be some reuse, because of the expansive size of these vehicles, Terrence. So if you cannot get a reuse out of whatever vehicle Hasbro is deciding to release, low-hanging fruit. Look at figures and look at vehicles. There's a lot of reuse on. The discussion on the Ferret and the Ram earlier in this chat. We've got 3 variations of the Ram. We're going to probably get another reuse of the Ferret. That's 3 uses of the Ferret. So think of that. Are there reuses of the Whirlwind? Have they ever re-released the Whirlwind before? I think if they're going to do a vehicle, maybe the Locust. There are 2 or 3 variations of the Locust. I think that's a nice Trouble Bubble size vehicle for Joe that we could get that's an aerial combatant to the Trouble Bubble that has 3 decos. So there's where I think we could get a vehicle if we're going to get something. So put your mind into that train of thought, Terrence Childs, and think of low-hanging fruit. Think of stuff like the Night Landing, the Skyhawk, the Fang, the Locust. That's what I'm talking about. I bet we get another Snake Armor, maybe a Palitoy variation, or maybe a Joe variation using most of that, and maybe they change the head and make it more Joe inspired, because there are a lot of mechs in G.I. Joe. There's probably about 8 or 9 mechs in G.I. Joe over the history of G.I. Joe from the 80s till now. So I think we may get a Joe mech and they just redo the head slightly on the Cobra mech, and maybe a Palitoy red version of the mech. So that's where you got to put your train of thought. But I would like a Whirlwind. I think it's cool. War Chest is a toy tuber. He does have a good reputation. He was messaging with Destro is my spirit animal and trying to get Viper Island to look stupid. So it's a whole ploy. I gotcha. See, I don't like games like that. I don't do games like that in this channel. I report on the information. I say, it could be speculation, it could be rumor. I don't say it's fact because I don't know. I don't work at Hasbro, so I don't know anything like that. But I don't like games like that, and I'm not going to play those type of games. Just like the situation the other day with Cobra Emperor, I'm not playing those games. I looked up the information. It was fake. I reported it's fake, and that's the end of it. I don't play games like that on this channel. And so if they want to do stuff like that, let them do it to themselves. You might think I'm weird, but I want a classified ASP. Hey, there's nothing wrong with an ASP. The ASP has got a lot of redecos. There's been 3 or 4 asps. There's a Palitoy red asp. There's a blue asp. There's a Python asp. There's been a lot of asp redecos. So getting an asp like that, similar to the HMS or the MMS, I think we could get that. I think that's a doable, low-hanging fruit. There's some redecos there if they wanted to do it. So there's nothing weird about that. Gunpowder. 610, Yojo Daddy. I agree with you, Dave. Brandon, I agree as well. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not playing those games. So I'm going to stick to the facts as much as possible. Yes, I did report on that. Destro is my spirit animal. I did not know that that was a whole ploy to get Viper Island out of the way to make him look stupid. I wouldn't have reported on that had I known that. So I will be very careful about when I report on stuff in the future, because I sometimes have gotten myself into situations where people have said I need to be careful of what I say. So I'm going to be more careful about what I say going forward in the future. So I apologize if I reported on anything that wasn't accurate. It's just the way it is. So our next video is going to be one that I've been waiting for a very long time. As soon as it was name only and it was revealed that this figure was coming, I was like, holy crap, what are we going to get? And then it came out and I was like, wow. I saw some other reviews of it. I'm like so looking forward to this next one. It's going to be 140, and it's going to be the next in a line of a faction of Cobra. I'll give you that clue. And it's going to be a deluxe, and it's going to be totally awesome. And I can't wait to open that up and get into that and really delve into this particular character. That's why we are here, Super Dave. Thank you, Sean Jones. I really, really appreciate that. I'm honest, straightforward, shoot from my hips type of guy. I tell it like it is, and I'm honest. And if I make a mistake, I'll be honest. I'll say I made a mistake. But yeah, I appreciate that very much because not everybody's gonna do that, and I just want to have fun. I'm doing this to have fun. I'm not here to troll other YouTubers. I'm not here to put forth false information. I'm here to talk about G.I. Joe, review vintage G.I. Joe, review classified, give my opinions, ask you guys for your opinions, and get your comments and contributions, and have a community, have a group of friends, and just talk about G.I. Joe. That's what I'm here for. And that's why I'm glad you guys are here as well. And that's the bottom line because Super Dave said so. So I look forward to that next one. It's going to be tomorrow, and it's going to be an awesome character. And then we have a redeco after that. And then after that, I think we've got something huge. It's huge coming after that. That's all I'll say at this point. I'll give a couple more clues as we get to that. So it has to do with Jabberjaw, if that helps you guys, if anybody knows that inside lingo on that. So there you go. Lenny Honda, take care, Dave. Thank you very much, Lenny Honda. One of these days I got to get you on and we'll do a talk. Okay, Lenny Honda, if you're interested, message me in my IMs on Facebook, David T. Allen. All right. Gunpowder Nitro, yeah, you're cool, but stay out of the drama. You seem to already have a solid base. Yep, thank you very much. Okay, I think because this is a really cool G.I. Joe vehicle figure, we're gonna go with Yo Joe. Thanks everybody in the chat for joining me again. Everybody after the fact in the replay crew, you guys keep this channel going. Make sure you share, like, hit that subscribe button to help us get to that 250 mark. We're trying to get a nice round number with maybe 1,000, and that's really where I'm trying to get to. 250, we're on our way. So thank you guys again, and we'll see you next time.